This is Jerry Beck, and we are watching The Wabbit Who Came to Supper, which is a wonderful cartoon directed by Friz Freleng, one of the earliest of the Bugs Bunny cartoons, and one of the few where Elmer Fudd is a little more of a heavyweight. And I'm watching this cartoon with Termite Terrace veteran Martha Sigall.
Hi, I'm Martha Sigall, as he just introduced, and I worked on this cartoon. I remember it very well.
Mike Maltese was the writer.
Mike Maltese.
He was a good friend of yours.
Very good friend of ours, and a very funny man, a terrifically funny man.
He came over, I believe, from the Fleischer studio in New York.
Yes, he did.
To Warner Brothers.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
And Fleischer's loss was Warner Brothers' gain.
That's right. He came actually as an assistant, and he was so funny just being around him that they decided to put him in the story department. And that was the best move they made.
The title, The Wabbit Who Came to Supper, is obviously a takeoff on The Man Who Came to Dinner, which was a famous Broadway play and subsequently a well-known movie. I believe it was a Warner Brothers film.
Right.
Telegram for Elmer Fudd.
Here's Mel Blanc doing all the voices except Elmer Fudd.
That's right. Arthur Q. Bryan did his voice. And in this picture, Elmer Fudd is kind of a very hefty cartoon character. I think that Bob Clampett started doing Elmer Fudd this way. And even though subsequent cartoons had him altogether different, except for the same voice and the same kind of intellect.
In that last scene, Carl Stalling had the underscore was "We're in the Money," which is a Warner Brothers song. And that's typical of what Carl Stalling did. He would use these themes, in a clever way underneath in the background in the cartoons. And it would get another laugh from the audience that was familiar with those songs. And it usually applied to what was going on in the action.
That's right. Carl was just magnificent at doing that. He was part of a really wonderful team that we had at the studio in those days. It was just a complete team that was so terrific. With Treg Brown doing the sound effects, they just worked terrifically together.
Now to I'll blow your head off. I'm just an angel in disguise.
Now Bugs is singing Angel in Disguise, which is again another popular song from that period. So tell us about Friz Freleng. You definitely worked with him.
Yeah,
knew him his whole life.
Yeah, Friz was really the senior member at the studio, and his forte was music. He was one of the best directors that I can remember, and very well respected.
This is still one of the earliest Bugs Bunny cartoons where he sort of doesn't look the way we know him later. They were still refining the design.
That's right. I think it wasn't until around 1943 where he became what he's like now today.
Right.
Operator! Hey, you got a nickel? Hello, operator! Give me walnut treat. Oh, that's you, Mert? How's every little thing?
This gag here about Mert was a reference to a running gag on the Fibber, McGee, and Molly show, which would have gotten a big laugh back then, but a lot of kids today have no idea what these little references. They did a lot of that where they would take dialogue off popular radio shows of the time.
The cartoons were very contemporary. They always used things that were going on in the world. And some of them are classics, and some of them have been forgotten because they don't use those same expressions anymore.
Open up! Hey, I'm getting pneumonia! Open up! I'll die! No, I'm too young to die!
When you look at Bugs, what do you remember about painting Bugs Bunny?
Oh, Bugs was very easy to paint, really, as far as I was concerned. We had about 40 girls painting at the time, and there were about 20 inkers. They would get the picture ahead of us, and we kind of had an idea what was going to be coming our way. It seems like in the early days of this rabbit, the directors would change him a little bit, make him a little different color. Nothing seemed to be standardized when it came to Bugs Bunny until much later. We just had to play it by ear. Of course, every scene was marked for us, so that was no problem.
Come on, that stuff. Swing it.
Rock-a-bye, baby, on the treetop. When the wind blows, the equator will walk. When the bow breaks, the equator will fall.
This print is a restored version of these cartoons, and I just noticed that background painting I'd never seen before that has this nude woman on it. You know, they would do things like that have kind of been lost throughout the years, and mainly because the print quality hasn't been so good.
Right. They're very well enhanced now. The only difference is Elmer Fudd is still the same sappy guy, taken advantage by Bugs Bunny. And did you ever see a cartoon that had ears in separate bases?
This is a great gag about Happy New Year, where the calendar on the wall says July.
He certainly is able to distract Elmer Fudd, isn't he?
Yeah.
Until he realizes it's only July.
Well,
This also has a great gag, which I think is coming up, where he runs down to the basement, right? This is a great way to create a gag when you have no gag.
don't go down there. It's dark.
I love how Elmer Fudd has this feminine powder room in his house.
Yeah, and I thought that was amazing too. But I think you can just do anything in a cartoon.
And they did.
And they did.
Within a year or so, a lot of the cartoons would have wartime themes.
It did. They did, right. Which are now considered politically incorrect.
Easter greetings.
This cartoon has New Year's references and Easter references. It really covers all the holidays. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.